Yeah, welcome back, the foot brawl guys.
I like it.
Yeah.
Are
All
you wearing
right.
what sweatshirt are you wearing there? You wearing a Niners sweatshirt? Is that a Niners sweatshirt? Oh,
No,
Minnesota
no.
Twins. Oh,
1991 champs, Minnesota Twins. I was a resident of St. Paul, Minnesota. That's where I was born. Twins were my first professional sporting events in life. My dad's company had season tickets that
ooh,
were like eighth row behind home plate,
yeah,
and we would get to go on like a rotation. So
yeah.
I got to see some cool stuff. I got to go. We didn't get to go to any World Series games,
No,
but I have a distinct memory of my mom and dad letting us stay up past our bedtime to watch the Twins clinch this title. So go Twinkies. Anyway, welcome to the show. Lots to get into. We've got an NFC Championship game to digest. We've got an AFC Championship game coming up, and of course, the coaching carousel. Some really, really big news on the coaching carousel. Where do you want to start with those three?
I think Harbaugh right now, right? What's happening with him is the freshest. We will obviously have plenty of time to discuss the games. I feel like a lot of us have covered that a lot, but we have feet in the college football
Yep.
world.
Foots. That's the plural of
Yeah,
foot is
we
foots.
what is it, feet? We have feet in the college foots in the college football arena, and then obviously we will cover the NFL. Justin Herbert, the Chargers. Um, I love the Jim Harbaugh hire for the Chargers, Sean, because it legitimizes their organization, right? When we talk about NFL franchises, a lot of times we talk about obviously the winning and losing, but the legitimacy of the franchise, right? Like how can this franchise function? Are they set up to win, right? Some franchises, it feels like, Sean, their goal is not really to win, right? Just to sort of be relevant or be in the news. And the Chargers, for so long, never felt like they gave the resources to winning a championship, right? This is the first time, maybe in a long time, and I know they made the Super Bowl in like '94, so I was 8 back then. So
Against my San Francisco
yeah
49ers. Not much
against
of a game.
against my Niners as well back then, not so much now, but nonetheless, it feels like they're legitimate now with the Harbaugh hire, because all Harbaugh has done with the Toro, was the Toros, right? The San Diego Toros, I believe they were
Toreros, yeah.
Toreros, and the Stanford Cardinal and the 49ers, and in Michigan, he has won a lot of football games. I mean, Stanford was not good before Jim Harbaugh got there. He ended up being one of the best programs in the country by the time he left. The Niners were not good when he got there. He took them to a Super Bowl and was close to winning that game with Colin Kaepernick. Not even the guy that he really brought in. He had Alex Smith, who was playing well, went to Colin Kaepernick after injury. Remind you guys, there's no such thing as keeping your job because of injury. That's a fallacy in all sports. If you get hurt and someone plays better than you, you're going to stay in the lineup. And then he won in Michigan, obviously. So this legitimizes the Chargers, right? It gives them a real head coach. He'll play general manager, but a face of the franchise that will demand respect. And all the mistakes, the chargering, these blowing late games, not having an identity, all ends with Harbaugh being in Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a phenomenal hire. I think it's a fantastic situation for Jim Harbaugh because you're going to. There was talk about like maybe, obviously the Bears didn't move on from their head coach, but there was talk about maybe like that would be the perfect fit. Maybe he stays in the Midwest and he gets a number one overall pick probably, and he gets to kind of craft things his way. The Chargers have a more ready-made roster, obviously, and I think most importantly, you have a quarterback who we know can win. He's young, he's talented. I think Jim Harbaugh can win with him. We saw what Harbaugh did at Stanford with great quarterbacks. I am a huge Alex Smith fan. I think that Jim Harbaugh helped kind of like revitalize his career. If you remember all the lean years in San Francisco pre-Harbaugh, and how many people had a difficult time keeping Alex protected and upright and utilizing his skill set. And I think Jim Harbaugh allowed a renaissance in Alex Smith's career where he finished as one of the most respected guys. Not a Hall of Fame type name and never really considered the best quarterback in the game, but incredibly well respected because of how professional he was and obviously the toughness coming back from that leg injury.
Yep.
Harbaugh's been part of all that, right?
Yep.
So now my question is, Jim Harbaugh and Herbert together, what does it look like? Does Jim Harbaugh know how to use Justin Herbert? Does Justin Herbert like to play for a coach like Jim Harbaugh, who is, by all accounts, a little quirky and maybe not every NFL guy's, cup of tea when it comes to the personality thing. So that marriage on paper, the talent and all that stuff, good coach, good quarterback, that's usually how you want it. But from a personality standpoint, how do we see this thing play out? I'm interested in that.
Well, it's a good question. Herbert was at Oregon with Mario Cristobal, and it feels like Mario Cristobal and Jim Harbaugh are very similar in their approach to playing football. Jim Harbaugh, I think, is a little more disciplined. His teams are a little more disciplined than Mario teams at times. But the goal of every game that they both play is to beat up the opponent, right? To physically dominate the opponent and possibly not have your quarterback lose the game. We used to complain about Oregon not using Justin Herbert in a way that we thought was more effective because the guy can throw the ball, obviously. In this offense, they're probably going to run. And look, Harbaugh's had different variations of the offense. He had the Alex Smith offense, the Colin Kaepernick offense. He had a different offense at Michigan, right? A couple of years ago, their coordinator actually went to Miami with Mario, I believe, and then Sharon Moore took over and they changed sort of what they did offensively. He's going to do a lot of different things, but the core of what he wants to do is beat you up at the line of scrimmage. And that allows the quarterback, in my opinion, think about like what the Lions do right now, right? Now, it's not the same system Harbaugh's going to run, but a lot of it is run the football, play action pass, keep Goff out of bad situations, get him easy completions. That is sort of what I think they're going to do with Herbert. Now, the difference between Herbert and Goff, obviously, Herbert has the arm talent to make a lot of different throws. So you can expand out once you put in the base of what you're going to do. And look, I don't think Herbert is a guy who is shying away from Jim Harbaugh's tough-nosed attitude. But I'll tell you what, Sean, the CBA doesn't allow Jim Harbaugh to be Jim Harbaugh anymore. You can't spend hours being up in these. I knew guys that were with him in 2009, 10, like 11. They watched film, Sean, for hours. They were there until 8, 9 at night. You can't do that anymore, right? Guys are going to give you the middle finger and get out of there. So Harbaugh has, and look, he's done this in Michigan. Look at all the rule changes in college football over the years. From limiting practice time, limiting two-a-days, to now transfer portal and NIL, and how he has navigated all of those things over the last 9 years, even through a weird COVID year. So I think Jim Harbaugh has shown he can adapt. I think Justin Herbert is ready for a guy like Jim Harbaugh to be his coach. And with the Chargers, again, you're going to get tough nose. You're going to get physical and disciplined. Their roster, though, is a little bit of a problem right now. It's older. Their cap situation is not great. So this might take a little bit more time to figure out. But the number one thing, Sean, is you have a quarterback, right? And the other jobs that he might have taken, he is in Jim Harbaugh, you were not guaranteed to have a quarterback. Now, of course, if you went to Washington, you were able to draft a quarterback, or Chicago, get Caleb Williams. But right now that you have Justin Herbert, and that is obviously a huge bonus to taking this job.
You also know that you have big problems to deal with in your division every year. Does that affect the appeal of this job? I mean, he's taking the job, but is Jim Harbaugh the guy to get you over the hump against like the Batman and Robin dynamic coaching quarterback duo?
I mean, we'll find out. I mean, look, the Chiefs, they don't lose very often. But one thing too is like Harbaugh's not going to be afraid of Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to shy away from the idea of having to beat the best, right? But the Chiefs are young at some positions, like defense, a little older at time. I mean, there's a transition period that's going to happen at some point, especially offensively, when Travis Kelce hangs them up. Maybe not this offseason, but it's coming soon.
Sure.
And Andy Reid is 64, 65. He's not going to be there forever. There'll be a transition period at some point. But the Chargers roster is not there at the moment, I think, to compete with the Chiefs. I think 2 or 3 years from now, it certainly is. But he's got to get over the idea of chargering too. I mean, that's been a thing the Chargers have always done. I think Harbaugh will get over that quickly. But you sort of have to like beat that out of yourself. Like, you have to win a lot of games for you to stop feeling like that. Look, I mentioned, we thought it was Tuesday, I think I was in Buffalo, and you could get the sense in the crowd that, oh, here we go again.
Mm-hmm.
Here, and the players feel that too, by the way. And so in Los Angeles, the visiting fans will be mostly in the stadium, but the Charger fans are going to, it's going to take a while to get over that, but I think Harbaugh can do that.
So, I mean, look, Harbaugh was hired by Michigan to beat Ohio State. And it took him a lot of time, but then finally Harbaugh got over the Ohio State hump and obviously won a national championship, and now he's off to the NFL. So do the Chargers have the same kind of patience and the same kind of leash or loose leash for Jim Harbaugh and whatever he wants to do to kind of get over that hump? We'll see. Obviously, it's an apples and oranges comparison when you're talking about Chargers, Chiefs, and Ohio State, Michigan. But that was a big factor when he decided to take that pay cut temporarily at Michigan because he hadn't been beating Ohio State. And ultimately it worked out. It worked out, I think, the way that Michigan fans wanted it and how he wanted it. A couple of people I want to ask you about him potentially putting on his staff. David Shaw, is this the ingress into the NFL that we've been waiting for with David Shaw, or is that only a head coaching thing? Jim Harbaugh and David Shaw worked together very successfully at Stanford. Could we see them working together again in the NFL in this situation?
So out of the coordinators that have sort of been brought up, it's been Shaw, maybe Pep Hamilton, and Greg Roman. I think David Shaw is the best solution to all of them. I mean, Greg Roman, to me, the offense that he's going to run does not fit what Justin Herbert is or wants to be as a quarterback. David Shaw obviously was his coordinator with Stanford early in his career. If Shaw wants the job, I would hire Shaw in a heartbeat, Sean. If he doesn't, obviously, you go somewhere else. This is not something that I need to point out. Lots of people pointed out this. Harbaugh has hired good coaches everywhere he has been. That's an important part of coaching, right? You want to hire good coaches. And bringing David Shaw on would be incredible. That would, to your point, that would lead, I think, to NFL jobs. And so maybe one of the Chargers interviewed him was to sort of vet him for the coordinator position. It's in California. It's near, obviously, where he lives in Northern California. And that would work well. Now, look, Shaw, at the end of the time at Stanford, the offense was not modern, right? And so it's going to have, if he can prove, I'm not saying he can't do this, but he hasn't shown this. He didn't show this at Stanford. Now, the personnel limitations there and reasons why maybe it didn't happen, but he does need to show a little bit that the offense is modern, right? That there's a little part of it that is not so old school. Even you can be a physical team and still run a modern offense.
Does Connor Stallions get a job on the Chargers staff?
Yes, actually. Yeah, he'll be in charge of going to Chiefs practices. The difference, of course, is that training camp practices in the NFL are open. Like, the Chiefs show the entire offense to the world during training camp, and people record it and I break it down on the internet. Yeah. Like yet college football, you can't get a single person to watch anything, to see a single second of practice. No, Stallion, I mean, maybe he's the real deal. I am curious about sort of how that ends up in Michigan. Obviously, I think Sharon Moore will get the job, who's our offensive line coach at OC right now. It makes the most sense. I understand the idea of maybe not hiring from within. Sean, we've talked about this a long time. I'm not a hire from within type of guy. I think that has not worked often. It can work sometimes. It worked at Utah, but a lot of times it does not work. But right now, in this late in the cycle, you're not getting anyone, right? All the coaches you wanted, Kalen DeBoer and Jed Fish, Dan Lanning, even a Brian Kelly. I think it's just too late in the process to get any of those guys. So I would keep Moore. Obviously, the scandal might happen, might not. Maybe it hurts him for a year. I don't know. Sean, look, Connor Stallions was found out before they played their 5 toughest games of the season, right? Before Penn State, really 6. Penn State, Maryland, Ohio State, Iowa, Alabama, and Washington. And they won all 6, often by more than a touchdown. Like, in the end, we talked about this so much on our show, man. In the end, Sean, did it? It's not great. I'm not advocating cheating. I think that we talked about this a lot. It was wrong. It was wrong the way they went about this. You sort of broke the unwritten rule by videotaping in the stands. But how much did it really help winning and losing? I don't know, man. Michigan was pretty good all season long.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the roster, you cut the film on, and you see the individual guys winning their individual matchup all over the field. still, you broke rules. I've never been a fan, or I shouldn't say never. Recently, especially with how much turnover and change, roster-wise, coaching staff-wise, when schools are punished after somebody leaves, it's stupid to me, right?
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh, maybe if this whole scandal didn't happen, maybe he stays at Michigan for a couple more years and wants to build a dynasty. Who knows? I think most likely he would have ended up in the NFL anyway. But if you're going to punish Michigan and the Michigan staff and Michigan roster that had either very little to do with or absolutely nothing to do with what happened this season and last season and whatever seasons were affected by Connor Stallions and his sign stealing, like you're punishing an idea, not the people who are actually guilty of the crime. And that's just silly to me. Like, we're punishing Michigan football. Okay, but Michigan football is 100 different dudes on the field and 25 different dudes in the offices. And maybe 2 or 3 of them have overlap. Maybe if Sharon Moore gets this head job like we think he's going to, like maybe he was talking to Connor Stallions every day. So maybe it would be more accurate in this case. But the NCAA and the Big Ten and anyone else who's thinking about punishing Michigan needs to, like, I hope, be reasonable about this. It's like if you moved into a new house and there's liens from the old owner against the house and you're just like, well, I don't want to have to pay that. I'm, well, sorry. You run the house now.
Yeah.
You run Michigan football. So,
I
pay
do.
the price.
Yeah, I do always. The idea of punishing a program after a coach leaves is tough because, you're punishing players that that might not have been there, right? I mean,
some of them are going to be like, some of the punishment is like, I was in high school when this happened.
Yeah.
How do I have anything to do with it?
Yeah. No, that's I have problems with that, and then someone's going to have to figure that part out. I don't know how they're going to be punished. I'm very curious how that ends up actually happening. All
right. So congratulations to the Chargers and to Jim Harbaugh, and I think congratulations to Justin Herbert for having a guy with a great track record of success and maximizing potential that we didn't see maximized with Herbert. It's certainly not in college, and maybe not yet in the NFL.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the NFL playoffs. You want to go AFC Championship game or NFC Championship game first? You know which one I'm more excited about.
Well, let's go. How about we go with the calendar? The AFC Championship game is first. How about that one?
Oh, okay. Chronological order.
There you go.
So the Baltimore Ravens have looked just devastatingly efficient. They have been a nasty group on both sides of the ball defensively. And it makes sense because of who their coach is and how he does things. But, I mean, there are echoes of past Super Bowl teams and the defenses that they were able to field. Like, this is a really, really smothering group. And you have the MVP at quarterback on the other side of things, which previously, the most successful years of Ravens football, you did not have. There's never been this kind of offensive, dynamic, incredible weapon, like MVP caliber guy keeping things in order while the defense is off the field. Instead, now you have Lamar Jackson, who does things differently. It's unconventional. He doesn't have the big passing numbers in every game, but he finds the end zone, and then you send that defense out there, and the defense just says, no, you're not going anywhere. Can they say that to Patrick Mahomes and company? Well, we're going to find out.
Yeah, man. This is look, I'm a Chiefs fan. Obviously, it's hard to make a case to see the Chiefs winning this game, Sean, right? I mean, if you look at the things that you want from a championship team, you really need 2 things, right? They all have 2 of them for the most part. Elite quarterback play and physicality on both sides. And the Ravens have that. They have both of those. And they're healthy. They get Mark Andrews back. Marlon Humphrey probably coming back. And the Chiefs just don't have as many good football players as the Ravens do. And it really worries me that the Ravens, at least offensively, can run the ball against the Kansas City. The Chiefs defense is really good this year, Sean. They do not allow a lot of points, and they don't allow a lot of wide receivers to get yards. But the Ravens can just run the football all game against them. The Chiefs do not stop the run, especially at shotgun, very well. On the other side, Travis Kelce last week was great. 5 catches, 2 touchdowns, Sean. But he's not the same player he used to be. He plays well in spurts, right? He will have a big play, come off the field for 4 plays, come back in. He's not a guy that we're seeing play an entire game. And if the Ravens take Kyle Hamilton, all-pro safety, one of their linebackers, Smith or Quinte, look, Kelsey's not going to get his. We're gonna guard him and take it away from him. Who else is stepping up? This is where the Chiefs missed that number one wide receiver. It's why I wish Rome Odunze could just line up in the Chiefs and put on a Chiefs helmet and just say, "Hey, Rome, run as far as you can. We'll throw you the football," because the Ravens, I think, will be able to take away the Chiefs' first option. And then what do the Chiefs do next? Rashee Rice has certainly done a great job as a rookie, but he's still a rookie. He's not a true, in my opinion, number one yet. He's like, I think the Chiefs draft a wide receiver and Rice is 1B or 2, and the new guy is sort of 1A, right? Like if you had a Rome Odunze, which they're not going to draft, he'd be 1, Rice will be 1B, and you're set, right? So they're missing some of those guys that I think that help them attack the Ravens defensively. And their left guard, Joe Thuney, is probably not going to play, Sean. He's their best offensive lineman. That's a concern on the road playing the Ravens. So, look, you never count out Mahomes because he is one of the best players we've ever seen play this game. Andy Reid is an amazing head coach, and they will have something cooked up. But, dude, it really concerns me. The Chiefs fan. The Ravens are good. Like they're just really good.
So when you look at the Kyle Hamilton thing that you just brought up,
yeah,
Kyle Hamilton is if you're in a division, and obviously these are not divisional opponents, but if you're in a division where you've got a very specific offensive weapon that is a problem for you, Kyle Hamilton is the guy that you draft to be the solution.
Correct.
If you're playing in a division with like an elite tight end, an elite pass catching tight end. I mean, he's a solution for a lot of your defensive woes, but he's as tall as a lot of these tight ends. He's doesn't weigh as much as a guy like Travis Kelce, but he's not giving up 40 pounds, right? You don't have the dynamic where these tight ends can use the body and push a guy around. I mean, Kyle Hamilton is the solution for elite tight end play. He's got the versatility. He's obviously got good ball skills. And I think most importantly, he's got the size to really handle somebody like Travis Kelce. And that is going to be a factor in this game. I still think, I mean, Kelce is the best pass catching tight end, in this era, maybe in the history of NFL football. And he's got incredible chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. So I could see him still scoring a touchdown. But to the point you made, I think he needs to be better than that. I think you need to have an unbelievable day from him because of the lack of weapons or the perceived lack of weapons. And that you look at Baltimore and you look at the way that they can sort of negate the most important game planning issues for Kansas City. I haven't looked at the spread. I don't know what
I think it's 4, I think.
Okay. I think Baltimore is on its way to a Super Bowl. And while I believe Kansas City's the tougher matchup than Buffalo was going to be, I just don't see it for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to need a Mahomes special game, Sean, like something that one of his better games of his career, and Andy Reid, and they're going to need to force some turnovers. They're going to need to force Lamar into some mistakes, which they can certainly do on defense. And defensively, Chiefs are mostly healthy. I think Willie Gay is going to play, which means they're down a one safety position, who they had to come in and play last week. They had hurt, their backup safety got hurt. I don't know. It's gonna be tough, buddy. If the Chiefs win this one, it's probably one of the better wins they've had in this era. They're just under, like, most of the time they've been at the minimum, like, same talent level as most teams. They're not at the moment the same talent level as the Ravens. They're just not, and that's okay. Part of that is that's what life is. We'll get Sean back in here in just a few minutes. As he there he is, he's back. Sean's back.
Sorry,
you're back.
Don't know what happened.
You're
there.
back.
Yeah. So I missed whatever the last 30 seconds.
I just said that this is the only time the Chiefs have really been the less talented team in a game like this.
Yeah.
So if they win, it'd be pretty incredible, dude. If they win.
Well, but look, I mean, last week also was a little bit of the Chiefs have never been in this situation before, right? And people use that to question Mahomes, and people use that to question the Chiefs. And my point when we were doing that with them going to Buffalo, like, oh, Patrick Mahomes, he can't win on the road. Okay, you sure? In the playoffs, he can't win on the road? He just hasn't had to. So,
Yeah.
like, just because we haven't seen it done before doesn't mean it's not going to be done. Now,
Correct.
when you're talking about talent versus talent, that's a different thing than I think road versus home. But I'm not really in the business of betting against Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, that collection. It's not about that for me. It's about, wow, look what these Ravens are capable of.
I agree. It's more, again, I think it's interesting because I think most of the analysis, and look, this time of year is only 2 games, right? So we're very much focused on these 2 games, and you get mostly the same opinions, a lot of it, right? And I think most people that watch football are saying what we are saying, right? Which is the Ravens are the better team. Dude, they beat like 11 teams with a winning record this year. Like they've been incredible. They blew out the Lions and the Niners. They beat both the teams in the NFC Championship game by more than 2 touchdowns, right? But you can never say the Chiefs don't have a chance at any game. And that's what Mahomes and Andy Reid do for you, right? Is you're always in every single game. What's the contrast of Lamar will be a 2-time MVP, Patrick Mahomes a 2-time MVP. Then we get to the NFC Championship game, Jared Goff cast away from the Rams, and Brock Purdy, the final pick of the draft. Very contrasting quarterback styles in these 2 games.
Yeah, we did this last week when we were previewing the divisional round, and I was just like, okay, if we're picking between all these at that time 8 quarterbacks, where do you put Brock Purdy? And because there are a lot of people who are just like, he's not he's down there. I mean, in this, he's certainly the least proven, obviously because of where he's at in his career. But I mean, Goff is the more experienced and has a better playoff resume than Purdy has so far. And Goff is not a guy that you were like heading into this year like that's an elite quarterback. So you just spent 5 minutes talking about why, Super Bowl caliber teams, you got to have physicality, you got to have elite quarterback play. It's still a question, and it's funny to see the way that people get so defensive of the whole Brock Purdy situation. Like, there are folks who want you to crown him immediately and tell him, I'm a 49ers fan, okay? I want Brock Purdy to be the second coming of Joe Montana. I desperately hope for that. But to say that because he had this great year, and to say that because of what we have seen from him over the last few months is silliness, especially when we're talking about a potential Super Bowl matchup against whoever wins that thing is going to have MVPs and, in some cases, Lombardi trophies in the case. And now he's going up against a guy in Jared Goff who's certainly not Patrick Mahomes and certainly not Lamar Jackson from a talent standpoint, but he's savvy and he's someone who's kind of like been through this. Everyone questions me before. So he's just got more experience in being doubted. Whereas Purdy is, it's all fresh.
Yeah. The Purdy thing is really interesting, Sean. Here's my argument against sort of the idea that he's MVP caliber. I think he's a really good quarterback in the system he's in. All quarterbacks are good in a system. So let's not pretend that like Mahomes or Tom Brady aren't good in a system. Is that if I have to hear he can't throw when the ball is wet, or he's a different player with Deebo Samuel not in the game, I'm like, red flag. Like, you know what I mean? Like, look, the Deebo Samuel splits. It's only 4 games this year where he has not played or played less than 10 snaps. So that includes the Packers game. Brock Purdy is completing 10% less passes. He's thrown 5 interceptions in those 4 games where he's thrown, I think, 6 all season long otherwise. Less touchdowns, less yards. The Niners score 32 points when Deebo plays, 18 when he doesn't. Vegas, we were talking about this on my Bear Bet show yesterday. Vegas has Deebo Samuel as a 2 points in the point spread. Mind you, quarterbacks are worth like 6 good quarterbacks. That's it. No one else is worth a single point. Any other position, anywhere, except Deebo's worth 2. And McCaffrey might be worth 2 as well. That tells you sort of the MVP, quote unquote, of the Niners, right? Like who is most important. So if the Chiefs this year, the Bills with Allen and Diggs wasn't playing really well, they still scored points. If you can't score points because Deebo Samuel's not in the game, one of your guys, you still have CMC and Kittle and Ayuk. Like, I'm out on you being an elite quarterback. Now, can Brock Purdy still play well and win? Yeah, I think he plays better than he did last week. The Lions defense is atrocious, Sean. If you had to guess how many straight weeks the Lions have allowed a wide receiver to have 140 yards plus, how many weeks would you guess that has happened?
Well, now that you bring it up, I'm going to say 7.
5 straight weeks. 5 straight weeks. They can't. Everyone scores on the Lions. Everyone moves the ball on the Lions. Brock Purdy is going to play well, in my opinion, but that doesn't really absolve him the way he played, obviously, last week, or what I think of him in the future.
Okay, so you brought up just then I think the matchup that matters most here, and that is the Lions defense, specifically the Lions secondary, against these pass catching threats that are at Brock Purdy's disposal. Now, Debo's absence, obviously Christian McCaffrey is part of the passing game just as much as he's part of the running game. Ayuk and Kittle, I think Kittle, because you look at some of these other teams and the linebacker play, the Lions drafted and developed. I mean, Jack Campbell is an improvement for them. I don't think he's a good matchup on George Kittle. I don't think that you have safeties that are great matchups on George Kittle. So am I wrong in thinking that Kittle might be the most important pass catching threat for the 49ers?
Yeah. I think it's Kittle, and I think it's Ayuk. It's both those guys, right? Because if Debo's obviously out, you need someone else. The Lions stopped the run very well, Sean. So it's a matter of obviously finding another piece of this offense. And the Lions, I think the Lions are going to score in the Niners. And so Niners can't stop the run. The Lions can run the football. I think the pass rush is going to be nullified by the Lions offensive line. So if the Lions are scoring points, Niners have to keep up as well. They're going to have to keep throwing the ball to keep up. So the weather's supposed to be good, so there won't be any rain to affect Brock Purdy's tiny little hands with football.
Don't let Brock Purdy be the guy that you start to bully, okay? Please.
Who I haven't had anyone to bully in a while. I haven't been able to do any Washington takes in a couple of days. So look, yes, Kittle, Ayuk probably are the two guys. Maybe there's another wide receiver that sort of pops in there as being an option that we didn't really see coming. The Lions defense to me is not good enough to win a Super Bowl. And that's, I think, what ends up really costing them at the end of this game is their defense is just not good enough.
7.5-point favorites, the San Francisco 49ers?
Yeah, it's one thing too. Like, I think a bunch of people that I think are bad at gambling are going to take the Lions, and so the Niners will end up being the right side in this one by the end of it.
Wow,
7.5 is a lot of points. We're telling you how they feel about this game.
I mean, in an NFC Championship game where you've got, it's a wild one for me. But
and the Lions have played one game outside since October 22nd.
Yeah, but it's outside in the Bay Area in January. It's not.
No, sure, but it's still outside. It's still away from home, and Geoff is not the same player typically away from home. What do you have as that sort of the final score here? What do you think?
Man, I think we get it a 30-27 game. I think it's going to be closer. I don't think the Niners are going to cover, but I think they're going to win this game. I think that you're going to have some of those same situations we saw with them in Green Bay where you need a special play from Kittle or you need a special play from Christian McCaffrey. And thankfully, those guys will give it to you. I'm a healthy skeptic, even as a 49ers fan, of the Brock Purdy hype train. And I don't say that because I want them to make a change. I don't say that because I want them to, to draft a new quarterback. It's just, this is a guy who's, still getting his feet wet, especially in playoff football. So I'm all right with being a little bit skeptical on it. And the Lions, to their credit, have been this team that drinks that electric blue Kool-Aid that Dan Campbell's mixing up. I mean, they are like a high school football team in their individual identity and their crazy belief in the destiny, the culture, the we are what we are and they are what they are. It's us versus them. It's we're blue collar and we're from the cold and now we're flying out here to this liberal Bay Area garbage. They're a bunch of professional adult dudes who probably in other circumstances wouldn't buy into any of this, but because it has worked out so well for them and because of how charismatic their head coach is, everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid, and that scares me a little bit because you don't actually see it that often in pro football, in my opinion.
You don't. Dan Campbell, man, I'll say like I think we all mocked him. We probably had him on Savage or Stupid, with
The biting the kneecaps.
by the kneecap stuff. But I mean, look, you can sort of have two different ways you coach, right? As a head coach, you can be, the play caller coach, right, or sort of the CEO coach. Those tend to be the two things. And Campbell is very much a CEO coach, and he has embraced being the CEO coach. And he has done a great job hiring good assistants. And the team obviously very much believes in Dan Campbell. Speaking about Savage or Stupid, very quickly. So Sean and I, we did a radio show. We ended every show with a segment called Savage or Stupid. And I was on Big Ten Radio this week, Sean, on Wednesday. And I offered to end the show.
You did the whole show, or you just were a guest?
Yeah, I did the whole show. I was like a late fill-in. Wow. Yeah, I know. Okay. I don't
Congratulations.
I know, right? It's what a day. What a day. I asked for next week. I don't have an answer yet. So nonetheless, I offered Savage or Stupid and explaining the segment to Adam Rindenberg was on. He had done it before, but the producers was quite a thrill. I then had to send him a bunch of like different tweets, like Tyreek Hill claiming that he did not file for divorce when the court said he did. Like those type of stories are ones that we used to cover on our program that I surely do. We can bring them back right now. I mean, again, like Travis Kelce. I mean, Tyreek Hill claimed he didn't file for divorce, and the court disagrees with him. How's that possible? How do you just like sort of like not? Do you know? I don't understand how you don't understand if you file for divorce or not.
Why would you pretend you didn't? Is my question. Like,
I mean,
he tweeted it out, right? Like someone said, "Oh, he's filed for divorce," and he's like, "Oh no, we did not."
But he obviously did though. Like I don't. How do you not know?
I don't know. It can't be you didn't know you filed for divorce. It's that you have some reason to like want to mislead the public.
Well, maybe he just didn't. Maybe he didn't want people to figure it out.
I guess. Stupid.
God, I would if I filed for divorce for both of us. It'd just be bad news.
Let me tell you something. Your wife would own everything that you had ever like. She's the most savage person that I've ever met without actually meeting. Your wife would just like you wouldn't even own your own hair at that point. It would be fantastic.
She claims that if we would get divorced, which we're not close to getting divorced. At least I don't think so. Maybe we are. That she just would like leave. She'd be fine leaving. I was like, okay, well, sure. She's gonna leave like and take nothing. She said, no, it's your money. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Whatever you say, hon. No, she would it's cheap. As she often says, she jokes, it's cheaper to keep her. Yeah, it'd be cheaper to keep her in this situation.
Well, yeah. You were already in the NFL when your wife when you guys got married?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So she knew what she was getting herself into.
Not really. I don't really understand. She's a smart gal, but just her brain just shuts off outside of work. Like our wedding night, I didn't sign my contract, but I agreed.
Breaking news, wedding night story from Geoff Schwartz.
No, but I agreed to my deal with the Giants. Like basically on my wedding day. That was like, it was, I've told you the story before, haven't I? You never heard the story before?
I don't know.
So
I ignore you a lot of time when you're talking. So
probably the day of my wedding, March 8th, 2014, was the first day of the legal tampering period of NFL free agency. I was coming off the Chiefs and I was like the number one guard in the market, number 1 or 2. So at 9 a.m. Pacific, we're at my parents' house. They're doing an out-of-town brunch the morning of our wedding, on Saturday, the morning of our wedding. My agent is in town. He took calls from 9 to 10. At 10 a.m., Meredith was not there. We huddled up in my living room. It was me, my dad, my brother, my agent, and my uncle. And my agent laid out all the terms that was being offered, essentially. And so we made a plan, Sean, of where we wanted to go. Then he's like, okay, enjoy your wedding day. So after the wedding is over, we take pictures. We took pictures before and after. We took pictures after. I come upstairs to the reception, to the cocktail hour, and I found Derek and I said, are we good? He said, yes, we're good. So I knew we were on this. We were good with the team and the money. We were good. And I told Meredith and she just didn't care whatsoever. Just had no idea what was happening. Just no idea. She tells people she tells people at our wedding that I was unemployed. And I was like, I mean, fair, I guess. But
fantastic.
then I signed a large contract the day of the wedding. It was actually 2 days later. She always complains. She's like, we didn't go on a proper honeymoon. And I'm like, hon, we've been in 11 trips that would be considered honeymoon since then. We're going on a trip in 2 weeks from now in Mexico. That's like at the nicest resort you can find. Like this is a honeymoon.
Listen, your family takes more vacations than anyone I've ever met in my life.
Correct. So
it's ridiculous.
So the idea that, well, her thing is she wants like a vacation a month. It's insane.
That's not real. That people don't get to do that.
Some of the vacations though are just like go to the beach for a weekend, which I guess is.
But for other people, for some other people, that's like their yearly vacation.
I know. Well, we have no trips in January.
Ooh.
And
thoughts and prayers. Are you holding up okay?
I'm going somewhere in February for work. I have no trips in February. Wow. She's gonna find a way to go somewhere in February. I feel like. Yeah.
I'm going to Saudi Arabia in February.
Yeah, you got the new the PFL. I like it.
Yeah. So
everyone's gonna find that. ESPN. Everyone, check out ESPN.
ESPN and ESPN pay-per-view. February 24th is going to be our first big show for the 2024 calendar. Champs versus champs.
I keep trying to get on that Zoom call that you guys do, but no one wants to have me on the show.
Yeah, sorry. We just you've kind of like become a little more aware of the combat sports world in the 5 years we've been working together. So I'm
mostly just because of you, just because you tell me about this, and I turn on the TV and I listen to you talk. It's not like I've actively searching out MMA. You know what? It's funny because like a lot of football players love to watch MMA. The only fight I've watched start to finish was your last fight against and you told me the whole game plan. I was telling Meredith, like, this is what Sean told me he's going to do. He's going to sprawl, make the guy tired, and then break his face. Like, that's perfect. It worked.
So it worked.
I just have never like gone into it. I don't know why. I like violence. Like, I feel like I would enjoy watching. It feels like my brain can't comprehend any more sport.
So I'll tell you this from the press conference we did earlier this week. So the PFL champion is a Brazilian guy who I've told you about before. His name's Renan Ferreira. If he was born in the United States of America, he never would have touched an MMA gym in his life. He would be a defensive end or a tight end in the NFL. He's 6'8" and just so freakishly athletic. Maybe he would have been a power forward. But like the guy can do a standing backflip at 6'8" and 275 pounds. It's crazy. So he's the PFL heavyweight champion, and the Bellator, who is this company we acquired, that's been around for a long time and has fighters people are very familiar with. Their heavyweight champion is a guy named Ryan Bader, who fought in the UFC for a long time, but he's a light heavyweight. He's an inch taller than me, and he probably walks around at like 240 pounds. Okay. So he's a big guy, but he's like a normal sized guy. And he was an all-state football player in Arizona back in the day, and he wrestled at Arizona State University. Like, he's a really like well-rounded athletic guy. But it's what, as a bat and ball sports fan, as a football fan, has wanted to see forever, right? When you get somebody who's capable of being an NFL athlete, and you put them in combat sports instead, and not like Greg Hardy style where you wash out of the NFL and then now you decide to pick up MMA.
Yes.
I'm talking about like, instead of going on the path at age 12 where people are like, oh, this kid's going to be, playing at Ohio State and then he's going to get drafted in the NFL. You don't have that in Brazil, right? So it's just like, oh, okay, let's see what we do with this guy in mixed martial arts or in martial arts period or in boxing or whatever. It's what I've always wanted to see, and we get it. We get it with this championship fight because it's like Bader is savvy and he's tough and he's as good as they can get, but now he's going up against the guy who's just an alien when it comes to athleticism. And someday, Geoff, the paydays are going to be big enough in MMA to where you're going to have like a Khalil Mack type body, or you're going to have somebody who's like a JJ Watt.
Yeah.
And and they're just going to be like, you know what? I think I'm going to fight instead. Or like a Russell Westbrook is just like, I'm going to go fight. I want to see if I could be a good fighter. And we're getting that, just not with American bodies yet.
That'd be awesome. Obviously it would help I think for the fan, but mixed martial arts, man, I think people underestimate the popularity of that and the popularity of just another different thing, obviously, but like wrestling, like they're both very popular in this country.
Man, so we're mostly going to be talking about football, but we can talk about whatever we want. Netflix just sort of like broke the seal on their sports programming with this $5 billion deal.
Yeah.
$5 billion for professional wrestling.
So people frame this as like is Netflix like into live sporting events? And to me, this is more of like Netflix into like entertainment. Like
it's live not, reality TV. But look, it's like a natural progression though. It's dipping the toe in the water because Netflix this is still scripted programming, but it's going to be live. So
wait, it's scripted?
So the next thing you do, right, is you're like, okay, like that worked out nicely. We got good engagement on it. We got whatever. That's a proven commercial product. Now let's see what it looks like when we have, when we have fights, when we sign the PFL, when we get the UFC over here or whatever you do, like boxing. Like Netflix is I think eventually, probably within the next 5 years, going to have true live sports programming on it the way that Prime does with their football and the way that Hulu has had for a few years now. So it'll be good to see with Netflix, and people are going to make money because of it. Because $5 billion for that WWE deal, that's huge.
If Netflix is looking for some live programming and talking about sports, Foot Brawlers are ready to go.
Dude, the Football guys would be their number one streaming property in your parents' house and in my parents' house, and that's it. But still, it'd be number one somewhere.
Number one somewhere. It would not be number one for our wives who would not watch it at all. So.
Correct.
Anything else, buddy?
I got nothing else, man. Okay. I'm so like I'm a hardcore fan when it comes to watching 49er football. Like when I try to be more of a, I don't know, casual observer when it's in certain college football situations and stuff. But I need the Niners to win this thing and go win a Super Bowl, dude. Like I need it. My grandma, who made me a 49ers fan, she's getting older. She's slowing down a lot.
Yeah.
I need the Niners to give her a Super Bowl this year, okay?
I need the Chiefs to win a Super Bowl because they haven't won enough. It's not been enough.
No, that's not true. I hate you for saying that.
I grew up a Niners fan. If Niners win, it'll be okay with me. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend. Sean, any last words?
Nope. See you later, everybody. See you on Monday.
Bye, guys.